Before we dive into the fascinating world of political ideologies, let me lighten the mood with a joke that gives us a humorous lens to understand how different perspectives shape the world we live in. A global survey was conducted by the United Nations with a seemingly a simple question. That simple question is, would you please give your honest and clean opinion about solutions to the food shortage in the rest of the world? This is the question asked by United Nations. The result revealed more about human nature than about food shortages. In Africa, when this question is asked in Africa, they didn't know what food meant. In Asia, they didn't know what honest meant. In India, they didn't know what clean meant. In Europe, they didn't know what shortage meant. In China, they didn't know what opinion meant. In the Middle East, they didn't know what solution meant. In South America, they didn't know what please meant. And finally, in the USA. And in the USA, they didn't know what the rest of the world meant. Now, this joke may make us chuckle, but if we think about it, it reflects the very essence of ideologies. How our beliefs, our values, and experiences, they shape the way we perceive the world. Each region's response highlights a different perspective rooted in unique historical, social, and cultural context. This brings us to the core of our discussion, that is today's topic, ideology. Just as a joke that shows us how differently people interpret the same question, ideologies shows us the variety in how we approach governance, how we approach power, and how we approach social organization. Today, we will explore these fascinating systems of thought that not only influence nations but also shape our individual lives. So, let's take a deep dive into the spectrum of ideologies, keeping in mind the humor and truth hidden in the joke we just heard. After all, understanding different perspectives is what makes our journey to ideology so meaningful. So that's why we have started this topic with a joke. Okay, let's see how these ideologies are the driving forces that shape our societies, that shape our governments, and ultimately our lives. They are not just abstract ideas, but systems of thought that define how we see the world, how we understand power, and how we approach change. From the dawn of human civilization, ideologies have been guiding lights, offering clarity in chaos and hope during upheavals. Today, as we navigate complex political and social landscapes, understanding these ideologies, they can empower us to make informed choices and build a better future. When we talk about ideologies, we are essentially discussing a set of beliefs, values, and principles that offer a framework for understanding society and the role of individuals within that society. At the core, every ideology seeks to answer fundamental questions. How should we live? Who should hold power? What values should govern our decisions? These questions are timeless, and the answers vary across cultures, answers vary across eras and thinkers. Ideologies are not static. They adapt to the challenges and aspirations of the times. They can inspire revolutions, they can shape policies, and even they fuel conflict. Now, let's see the first one, right wing and left wing ideology. We are not talking about chicken wings here. It's a right wing and left wing. I know this generation seems to have a borderline obsession with the chicken wings, spicy, tangy, or crispy. But trust me, today's topic is not something you can order with extra sauce. It's not right wing, left wing. It doesn't refer to chicken wings. We are here to explore the serious and often spicy spectrum of political ideologies, from the right to the left. So let's set aside the wings, the hot wings for now, and get ready to chew on some real food for thought. The ideas of ideologies being divided into right and left. It is a fascinating starting point. The terms right wing and left wing, they have their roots in the French Revolution of 1789. A transformative period that is in the history of the world. During the sessions of the National Assembly, political factions physically divided themselves based on their ideologies at the time. On the right side of the chamber, they sat the monarchists and conservatives. They supported King Louis XVI, and they are supposed to preserve preservation of the traditional hierarchical structure. On the left side of the chamber, revolutionaries advocating for change took their seats. Figures like Maximilian, Georges Danton, and Jean-Paul Marat, they emerged as vocal leaders of this movement. They pushed for radical reforms. The people, those who are sitting that left side, they pushed for radical reforms, including the abolition of feudal privileges and greater equality among citizens. Their revolutionary zeal led to the drafting of the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizens. A cornerstone. It was a cornerstone document of the revolution that proclaimed liberty, equality, and fraternity as universal rights. This physical division in the assembly, it was not just a matter of seating, it symbolized a fundamental clash of ideologies. The conservatives on the right sought to protect the monarchy and uphold traditional values, while the radicals on the left aimed to dismantle centuries-old systems of privileges and power. As the revolution progressed and the monarchy fell, the left became synonymous with progressivism, egalitarianism, and often the demand for sweeping societal changes. The enduring legacy of this symbolic arrangement. This symbolic arrangement extends far beyond the French Revolution. Even today, nearly every political discourse globally uses these two terms, right wing and left wing. Right and left as shorthand for opposing ideologies. Whether it's conservative leaders like Edmund Burke, who criticized the radicalism of the French Revolution, or progressive thinkers inspired by the ideals of equality and social justice, the divide that began in that revolutionary chamber, it continues to shape the way we understand and discuss politics. This historical movement marked by figures like Robespierre and Louis XVI, they illustrate how a simple seating arrangement became a lasting framework for categorizing political beliefs. It represents two broad approaches to governance and society. The right often emphasizing tradition, the right often emphasizing stability and authority, while the left champions change, equality, and collective welfare. But these broad categories only scratch the surface. The story of right-wing and left-wing politics in India, it is a colorful as a blockbuster story with full of drama. In India, it's full of drama, ideals, and a few unexpected twists in our right-wing and left-wing stories. On one side, during the freedom struggle, we had the left-leaning thoughts like Mahatma Gandhi and Jawaharlal Nehru. They were talking about equality, justice, and giving the underdog a fighting chance. They dreamed of a nation where farmers, workers, and everyone in between, they could spring forward together. On the other side, that is the right side, the right wing was finding its footing with groups like the Hindu Mahasabha. It is later became RSS. They waving the flag of cultural pride and national identity. Post independence, the left side let the government take care of the things. That's what the left wing said. While the right replied, let the market decide. The result. The result, a political tug of war. A political tug of war where socialism, nationalism, and capitalism, they played musical choice all the way. Today, our political landscape still swings between these two wings, right, left, like a restless pendulum reminding us that democracy is not about choosing one side, but finding a balance that lifts us all up. So, as we move further along with the spectrum, we encounter the radical right. Radical right represented by ideologies like fascism and Nazism, which dominated some of the most turbulent periods of the 20th century. Fascism, it's emerged in Italy under Benito Mussolini in 1922, advocating for an authoritarian state where the individual existed solely to serve the nation. Mussolini's fascist resume, they emphasized discipline, power, and the glorification of the state, erasing dissent and centralizing all authority under his rule. Inspired by this fascist model, Nazism took root in Germany under Adolf Hitler in 1933, adding an even more sinister dimension, racial superiority. The Nazi ideology driven by anti-Semitism and Aryan supremacy, it led to catastrophic events like the Holocaust, where 6 million Jews and millions of others were systematically murdered. Both fascism and Nazism celebrated extreme nationalism, turning it into a tool for propaganda, war, and the suppression of freedom. They prioritized the collective identity of the state over individual rights, using fear, violence, and censorship to maintain control. Fascism's infamous mantra of believe, obey, fight, and the Nazis' glorification of a Aryan's pure German race, they became rallying cries for resumes that plunged the world into World War II, leaving a legacy of devastation. These ideologies, these radical right ideologies, they serve as stark reminders of the dangers of unchecked power and authoritarianism. On the right-wing side, we also find ideologies like monarchism. This is perhaps one of the oldest political systems where power is concentrated in the hands of a hereditary ruler. Monarchism, it values stability and continuity, seeing the monarch as a symbol of unity and tradition. They have been critiqued as outdated in modern democratic societies. Monarchism is like that of old family heirloom. Some countries just can't let go of. It's all about kings, it's all about queens, and it's all about crowns that sparkle brighter than common sense sometimes. A few countries still love their monarchies like the United Kingdom, where the royal family waves at the crowds and they drink tea with the people, while Japan has its emperor, who is more like a national symbol than a ruler. And let's not forget India. In India, where we said goodbye to kings and maharajas, but still love their palaces and fancy histories. Monarchism may not rule much anymore, but it sure knows how to stay in the headlines and in our imagination through history and through story. Now let's see the left side. On the left we delve into ideologies like Marxism, a political and economic theory. It rooted in the revolutionary works of Karl Marx, whose writings laid the foundation for a critique of capitalism. Marxism views history not merely as a series of events, but as a constant struggle between different classes. At its core, it perceives the capitalist system as inherently exploitative, where the bourgeois are ruling capitalist class, the profits of the labor of the proletariat, the working class. Marx argued that this class struggle would inevitably lead to a revolution, overthrowing the capitalist system and establishing a society based on collective ownership of resources, where in the society where wealth is distributed equitably. Karl Marx's vision, his vision for society was one in which class distinctions would be abolished and a communal system would replace the private ownership of property. He believed that this would usher in a new phase of human history, a society where each individual's contributions are based on their abilities and in return they would receive according to their needs. Karl Marx's his idea was deeply utopian in nature, where exploitation, inequality, and the hierarchies they encouraged by capitalism would be eradicated. The appeal of Marxism, it resonated across various parts of the world, particularly among those living under harsh conditions in industrializing nations. The Russian Revolution of 1917, led by Vladimir Lenin and later it was led by Stalin, it was one of the most notable movements where Karl Marx's ideas were put into practice. Marx's theories, they also influenced the Chinese Revolution of 1949, where Mao Zedong, he implemented Marxist principles to create the People's Republic of China. These movements were seen as catalysts for change. They promised a new world. These revolutions promised a new world order where the common man could break free from the chains of oppression. However, the implementation of Marxism, it has been subject to intense critique. In practice, Marxist regimes often diverge drastically from Marx's original vision. The so-called dictatorship of the proletariat, they led to the rise of authoritarian governments rather than the free and equal society Marx envisioned. Leaders like Stalin in the Soviet Union and Mao in China, they amassed significant power, creating a bureaucratic state that suppressed political dissent. They purged perceived enemies and controlled vast aspects of citizens' lives. The quest for a classless society ironically gave birth to a new elite, the party officials and military leaders who ruled with absolute power. For instance, under Stalin's rule, millions of Soviet citizens were subjected to forced labor, famine, and execution in the name of building socialism. And even in China, Mao's great leap forward and the cultural revolution, it resulted in widespread suffering and the deaths of millions, as radical policies were enforced at the cost of human life and personal freedom. These examples highlight the gap between Marx's idealism and the realities of implementing such systems. They led many to question whether Marxism in its purest form is a viable solution to societal issues. Moreover, critics argue that the centralization of power often inherent in Marxist-inspired governments leads to the very tyranny Marx sought to abolish. Rather than fostering an egalitarian society, these regimes often turned into oppressive states, violating the very principles that Marx espoused. In the modern world, some countries that still profess allegiance to Marxist ideologies, like North Korea, Cuba, they continue to face criticism for their lack of political freedoms and economic challenges. Thus, while Marxism was undeniably a transformative force, sparking revolution and shaping global politics, its practical applications, they have often deviated from its theoretical goals, raising important questions, important concerns about the balance between ideology and government.